Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start us off now that we're all here. Hi everyone, and welcome to the launch of the 2025 Our New York City Dance Campaign. My name is Melinda Wong, and I am the Research and Advocacy Manager at Dance.NYC. I'm joining from the occupied Lenape and Canarsie land, also known as Brooklyn. I am a young Chinese American person with bright red hair. Today I'm wearing a black turtleneck with a floral design, and I have a blurred, mostly white background behind me. So throughout this call, we will be using presentation slides. The main format of the slides includes title slides with a purple to orange gradient background and large white text, and content slides that are white with pink headings and black text and points underneath. Images and other visual content on slides will be described when we arrive at those moments. So currently on screen is a gradient title slide with a photo of dancers in a joyous moment of connection on stage. Please note we are recording today's call. If you have any questions or concerns about recording, feel free to message Nadia in the chat. All right. Today we will have live captioning as well as ASL interpretation available. Our ASL interpreters are from SignNexus, and they're Kat and Candice, and they will be spotlit for you throughout today's event. Our captioner is Francisco from the Viscardi Center. So you can use the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to view the captions, and we've also dropped the link in the chat to access the stream text transcript. So thank you all for joining us. We're here today to kick off the next 4 months of concentrated action to make our dance ecosystem more vibrant, sustainable, and equitable. So we'll have some amazing guests who will be presenting. And after that, we'll have time for breakout discussions and how we're working towards that future that we want. So please note during the breakout discussions, if you would like to be in the same room as our live captioners or our ASL interpreters, please direct message Brenda, and Brenda will make sure to put you in the same breakout room as them. And then after that, finally, we'll be unveiling the 2025 Our New York City Dance Campaign and going over how you can get involved. Okay, amazing. Before we get started, I wanted to go over some guidelines for the space. So a general note for accessibility, please be clear, loud, and maintain a moderate pace while speaking, both for our captioner and for general understanding. And some housekeeping elements. Please stay muted unless you're speaking. If you are speaking, please introduce yourself and your organization. And if you're on camera, please give a short visual description for accessibility purposes. If you have a question, you can put it into the chat, raise your hand, or unmute and share. And if you have like an individual question or concern, you can send a direct message to Nadia on chat, who is our wonderful programs assistant. Some community guidelines for our call today. So by participating in this event, you are entering a virtual space of learning and accountability based on Dance.NYC's values of justice, equity, and inclusion. This means that we agree to share our opinions respectfully and course correct if harm is caused. This means we honor everyone's humanity here. And this means that we're not tolerating speech that is disparaging, abusive, or violent. If anyone acts in violations of these guidelines, they will either be asked to course correct or be removed. So thank you all for your collective agreement. After this, Dance.NYC would like to recognize our country's history and its legacy in the space we occupy. So parts of this acknowledgement have been adapted with the guidance of Indigenous dance artist and activist Emily Johnson, and more recently, River Whittle. Dance.NYC would like to acknowledge that the city of New York is located on stolen land, more specifically, Lenape-Hokick, the traditional territory of the Lenape people, who are recognized federally as the Delaware Nation of Oklahoma and Anadarko, Oklahoma, the Delaware Tribe of Indians in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, the Stockbridge-Munsee Band of Mohican Indians in Bowler, Wisconsin, and in Canada, the Munsee-Delaware Nation in Muncie, Ontario, Delaware Nation in Moraviantown, Ontario, and Delaware of Six Nations of the Grand River in Oswego, Ontario. The Lenape people are the original inhabitants of this land and gave Manhattan Island its name, Manhattan. We recognize that as an organization based in New York City, we have benefited and continue to benefit from the systemic displacement and subsequent erasure of Lenape people and governance on their land, and must make concerted efforts to collaborate and make pathways for Lenape artists and leaders to return to Lenape Hoking today. So please join me in taking a moment to recognize and reflect on the centuries of violence, displacement, forced migration, and settlement here, and consider what reparations you can begin to make today. All right. One way that we can begin is by joining Dance.NYC in supporting Lene Lenape Kwayak, which is a wonderful organization. And we'll put the link to that in the chat so you all can go check them out. All right. Now that we've gone over some introductory, base laying for the space today, we're ready to learn more about the campaign and how our community is building our New York City dance. So I'm going to start by passing it over to our interim executive director at Dance.NYC, Sarah Rower, for a few words.
Thanks, Melinda. Hi, y'all. I'm Sarah, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'm zooming in from occupied Muncie Lenape land, colonially known as Manhattan. I am a white woman with short, curly, salt and pepper hair, heavily streaked with orange dye. And I have on bright red lipstick, small, dangling blue earrings, and a dark gray pinstripe with a deep V-neck. Behind me is a wall of white cabinets with a colorful framed collection of 3 Dance.NYC campaign posters. About this campaign, so last year, outgoing co-executive director Candace Thompson-Zachary, who's in the chat here, uplifted the most pressing needs of the dance community in launching the inaugural Our New York City Dance campaign. And this year, I'm honored to steward an expansion of that work, along with the incredible Dance NYC staff on this call and behind the scenes. Many of you on this call also participated in our 2023 dance industry census, which surveyed about a quarter of the estimated 6,000 individual dance workers and 1,700 dance entities in New York City. That census showed us how the NYC dance industry is contending with systemic inequity and fragility, and yet also how dance workers continue to create brilliant work in connection with their communities. This campaign arose out of research and as a way to engage the dance community to mobilize for better conditions. We defined 3 key issue areas from that work and activated workers across the ecology around one question: how are you building our New York City dance? And through that engagement, we mobilized dance workers to advocate for and win $53 million in restored funding for arts and culture in the city budget. And with that success and win, and more to come, I'll pass it back to Melinda to expand on the key issues that we're going to carry forward in the work this year.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. So this year, we really wanted to make the campaign more actionable so that everyone attending this call and people in your networks are able to participate in shaping a better dance ecosystem. But the vision, right, what we want for our people, that remains the same, right? So I want to briefly open this up to you all in terms of creating a collective vision of what we want for our New York City dance. So please join us by dropping into the chat one word or phrase that describes your vision of our New York City dance. What do we want for our people?
You called me on.
I'm starting to see some amazing responses in the chat. Vibrant, intergenerational. I like audacity. Love that, right? More ease, support traditional dance, multicultural, radical care. Right. So I invite people to continue putting into the chat. I'm seeing some beautiful words, beautiful visions that are about the diversity of dance, how dance has the power to spread love through movement. I see that. And also how we need support, right? We need ease, we need stability to be able to do this work. And that really aligns with the vision that we've spelled out in this campaign. So our, Dance.NYC's vision for our New York City dance is threefold. We want our New York City dance to be valued and protected as a form of cultural expression and common good, right? dance is not something that can be sidelined. It's a part of how we exist as people in a society. We want it to be a just, attainable, and sustainable profession that leads to our thrivability. We want everyone here to thrive. And we want it to be a vibrant and diverse ecosystem that strengthens the local fabric of civic life. I saw that in some of the answers that you had in terms of community and in terms of multicultural and traditional forms of dance. And so we know this vision, it's the same as last year. However, we know that we're returning to this vision in a particularly difficult time, one that's rife with regressive political attacks on queer, BIPOC, and immigrant communities. So we have the power to use our position as artists and workers to support our neighbors and our broader communities, to encourage dissent and political expression and more. But at the same time, we know that the dance industry is not immune from recreating those same systems of oppression. And this can be especially true in times of crisis. So that's why it's crucial that we do the work now. We can work to advance equity within the dance industry so that we're not recreating those systems for our own workers. We can also advocate for the resources that we need to do the work of serving and protecting our larger communities beyond just our industry. So as we spend the next hour exploring how to move forward as a community, we can return to this intention. And yeah, so I know that many in our community are already doing this work, have been doing this work, will keep on doing this work to create change within the dance ecosystem. So I really wanted to ground us here in our launch by highlighting what's already being done. So to that end, we've invited three fantastic guests to give us short 5-minute remarks to answer that same question that we asked last year. How are you building our New York City dance? After the speakers go, we will have the chance to discuss the same question in breakout rooms. So I'm noting here again that if you would like to be in the same breakout room as our live captioning and ASL access providers, please direct message Brenda in the chat now. So let me introduce our speakers. On the screen now are the names and headshots of our guest speakers. First, we'll have Antuan Byers, who is the Dancers Vice President at the American Guild of Musical Artists and the founder and director at Black Dance Changemakers. Then we'll have Amrita Doshi and Jeeno Joseph, who are co-founders of NYC Adavu. Finally, we'll have Yanira Castro, an interdisciplinary artist working with A Canary Torsi. Their full bios are available on the launch event page. And now I'll pass it on to Antoine to share a little bit more about your work.
Thanks, Melinda. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Antuan Byers. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm currently zooming in from Lenape-Hoking, Harlem, New York. I'm a Black person with short facial hair, and I'm wearing a gray turtleneck today with a cobalt blue beanie. Behind me, it's a blurred background, but you'll see a little bit of a TV, a dryer on my left shoulder, and some different artwork in my multi-purpose space of my apartment, which I'm sure many of us New Yorkers can resonate with. I'm a freelance dancer performing with different companies and projects in the city, but mostly with the Metropolitan Opera. I also serve, as Melinda said, as the Vice President of Dancers for the American Guild of Musical Artists, or AGMA, as a lot of people know it. And I'm also the founder and director of Black Dance Changemakers. My work lives at the intersection of performance and justice. Yes, I dance, but I also build, I organize, I advocate, and I work to try to find creative ways to support my community. Because dancers, especially Black dancers, immigrant dancers, queer dancers, trans dancers, fat dancers, disabled dancers, have always had to hustle twice as hard for half as much. And that's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. But here's the thing. When dancers come together, when we get organized and hold the line, we win. Let me show you what I mean. At American Ballet Theater, dancers just secured some of the best gains in their history. Cost of living increases of between 9 and 19% across 3 years. Retirement increased to 5% by their third year. And we have new parental leave that says if you're pregnant, you decide when you stop working, not the company. At Alvin Ailey, the dancers locked in 5 more guaranteed work weeks, raises of up to 10% for their first year, and better retirement and more personal days. At Dance Theater of Harlem, founded in 1969 as the first Black classical ballet company, the dancers recently voted unanimously to rejoin AGMA after over a decade of being non-union after the company closed its doors in 2004 due to financial hardship. That's legacy reclaiming its power. And for the first time in AGMA's history, we organized dance educators. The ballet faculty at the School of American Ballet are now union members and are currently at the negotiating table as we speak for their first collective bargaining agreement. That's a game changer, which we know will have impacts throughout the field for dance teachers and educators everywhere. But let me take you to Dallas for a moment. I know we're here to talk about New York, but what happened at Dallas Black Dance Theater, that's a story we all need to remember. In May of 2024, the full company of dancers also voted unanimously to unionize with AGMA. It was exciting, it was bold, it was historic. But instead of celebrating, leadership retaliated. Benefits were denied, essential teaching gigs that made it possible to sustain yourself at Dallas Black were cut. And just 10 days before the new season began, right after many of them had just signed new leases, bought new cars, planned their lives around living and working in Dallas, the whole company was fired. Every single dancer, from the newest company member to the 14-year veteran, all of them fired. What Dallas Black didn't expect, though, was the response, a wave of support from across the country. As Dallas Black launched their season of relentless excellence, with the new company of dancers, even after AGMA's do not work order, we launched our own season of relentless solidarity. We rallied, we held picket lines at every show, we wrote letters, thousands of them. We told the story loud enough that even the New York Times had to listen. So if you're here today and you wrote a letter or showed up on a picket line or even just shared a post, on behalf of Dancers Deserve Better, or formerly the Dancers of Dallas Black Dance Theater and AGMA, thank you. You were a part of something bigger. Our collective movement had real consequences. Dallas City Council paused over $250,000 in funding to Dallas Black. Major donors pulled out. The National Labor Relations Board filed nearly 40 complaints against Dallas Black Dance Theater. And y'all, after months and months and months and months and months of fighting, we won. We won a settlement agreement that included over $500,000 in compensation for the dancers from Dallas Black for the harm they caused. Written personal apologies to each of the dancers from the top leadership at Dallas Black. Public accountability. The settlement demanded that Dallas Black post the full 7-page NLRB notice detailing the company's misconduct in the Dallas Morning News and be read out loud to all of their staff. And a promise to stop blocking the dancers from unemployment, which the company had been doing since their firing in August. This didn't erase what happened, but it did something else. It marked the moment. It told the world, you can't silence dancers. Not anymore. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. It wasn't just the NLRB. We know that as administration changes, the NLRB will change. And it wasn't just our lawyers with their degrees who think they know everything. That was a joke. It was us, the dancers, the community, the people who refused to look away. So what do we do now? We keep building, we ask the hard questions, we learn our rights, we talk to each other. Y'all, we actually have to talk to each other. We organize with our coworkers, we show up for each other across roles, across companies, across boroughs, because our New York City dance is more than an industry. It's culture, it's legacy, it's a source of healing, of joy, and of pride. And the people who make our New York City dance move deserve to be protected. If you're a dancer, you're a worker. If you teach, choreograph, stage manage, usher, you're a worker. And workers deserve dignity. The days of silence are over. The exploitation, we're not tolerating it. And this next chapter, we're not just writing it, we're choreographing a future where every dancer is protected, respected, and empowered. It's time to get free, y'all, but we have to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Jeeno Joseph. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a first generation Indian American. I have brown skin, glasses, and beard and short hair. And behind me, in my backdrop, you will see scenes from my bedroom. I honor the Lenape people as the original caretakers of this land from where I'm calling. We also honor the hereditary practitioners of Bharatanatyam and acknowledge the complex history of this art, including harm towards this community in its propagation. While we practice this form, we move forward with respect, awareness, and gratitude for the hereditary artists who practiced and preserved this art form. Myself, Jeeno, and Amrita, who will be speaking after me, are the co-founders of NYC Ardavu. We are essentially a community of dancers who primarily practice Bharatanatyam. This is a Indian traditional dance form, which originates from the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu. This is a highly percussive art form, so those of us in the city, we find ourselves very isolated and unable to practice in the spaces that are provided within our own apartments or in very expensive studios in the city. So due to this, we found ourselves a desperate need for a space for those who practice this art form. So that's where we came in, and Amrita and I founded NYC Artavu. And in this space, we essentially practice artavus, which are the foundational building blocks of this art form. They're essentially the steps which one learns during the initial phases of learning. And these are kind of the strings. This is the string that ties all of us together, regardless of where you learned, regardless of who you learned from. All Bharatanatyam dancers across the globe learn these steps. So that is what kind of ties us together. We have a core team who handles our logistics, such as studio bookings, emails, communication, social events, social media, which is very important. Our sessions are donation based, so which makes it incredibly accessible for everyone from all backgrounds. And since our inception in 2018, we've had a global Artavu movement. We've had Artavu movements crop up in London, Paris, Amsterdam, New Jersey, San Francisco, Seattle, Dallas, and so many more. So the fact that we see all this is, it expresses that there's a desperate need for community in this dance space. And then I'll pass it off to Amrita to speak a little bit more.
Thank you, Jeeno. Thank you to the Dance.NYC team for having us here. I don't know if we can follow Antuan's incredible, moving kind of expression of dancer power. But we're honored to share a little bit about NYC Audubon. So I'm Amrita. My pronouns are she, her. I live on the Lenape land, also known as Brooklyn. And I have long black hair. I'm wearing gold jhumkas. I'm wearing a brown t-shirt. And in my background, you can see some plants and a French door. Just to build on what Jeeno was saying, we are, I think like Antuan, what you spoke to is a lot of the systems change and also how dancers can come together. And I think a lot of what Aravu was born out of is the culture change that we were seeking within our own community. And so a couple of things that stuck out to me or stuck out to us from Dance NYC's vision for a future of dance in the city is primarily to have it be a space where dancers feel valued and safe. And what that looks like to us is making sure that every dancer that comes to us can come at any level. We have folks that come to us and said that they've never danced in 15 years, people who are on bachelorette trips to New York City and drop in for a session. And we emphasize to everyone that you go at your own pace, at what your body allows, at what your memory allows, and you're also allowed to explore. And I know those could feel so simple, but from some of the lineages we come from and from some of the most cutthroat and competitive dance spaces we come from, that's an incredibly, I think, liberatory sort of ideology to lead with, which is you are welcome to dance as you are and how you want. The second thing that we really focus on is affordability. As dancers, and Jeeno and I have both danced semi-professionally, who also find it incredibly difficult to literally, we could rehearse for months and years and make $300 off a performance. So the Indian classical space is zero funded. And if you have funding or even like rehearsal stipends, I think that's like a blessing. And so a lot of folks who are practicing this art form don't have any funds for training. And so to us, we actually take a donation-based approach to this practice session where we say, by providing a donation, we'll cover the cost of the space. We use any surplus funding to go towards showcases for the group or socials because I think, as we know, community is so important. And part of the way we sort of break down the hierarchy and competition in the space is by like shoving community in our faces and saying like we are actually, if we work together, we can improve dance for all of us. And the third thing that I'll just like close with is the vibrance and diversity that you talked about. For us to put Aruvu's not just on the New York City stage, but this global stage in a community-driven, non-hierarchical, inclusive way is our statement about what the future of Indian classical dance could and should look like, and how that intersects with our respective dance communities all across the nation. And so we stand with dancers in New York and in all the other cities that NYC Aruvu is in. And again, thank you for having us here.
Hi, everyone. It is so good to be here with you. My name is Yanira Castro. I use the pronoun she, her. I am a light-skinned Puerto Rican person. I have on a pair of dark-rimmed glasses, and I have white hair. It's in a bob, and I'm wearing a dark blue navy shirt. Behind me are windows, and to the right of me, I think your left, is this tree that I've been caring for many years. And I am on the lands, on the unceded, stolen lands of the Lenape, Munsee, and Canarsie people, otherwise known, currently known as Brooklyn. So I am an artist, have been making work here in the city for 30 years. And I've been gathering people to advocate for arts workers and to work towards community-held, horizontal, participatory models of mutual care since 2020, when I was a founding member of Creating New Futures, which is a group of arts workers who gathered at the start of the pandemic to address that inequities that became really apparent in the field. And we co-authored 2 documents that were drafted as calls to action: working guidelines for ethics and equity in presenting dance and performance, and notes on equitable funding from arts workers. These documents have been read by thousands of people, and their calls for collectivity and for us to gather as people to answer some of these issues are still active and very relevant. As we embrace this launch, the second launch of Our New York City Dance, and talk about how to get more active within it, and think about the future that we want to build, I have to begin, and I'm going to begin, by recognizing the political moment that we are in, and how I deeply believe they are intertwined. In the same way that in the work with Creating New Futures, thinking about arts workers was also deeply intertwined in thinking about the entire workforce. So our moment, if you weren't already living it, the government of the US is disappearing people, creating international gulags, ignoring judicial orders, silencing protesters, working towards the denaturalization of trans people, reenacting Manifest Destiny, taking a wrecking ball to our public services, accelerating genocide, abandoning people through the decimation of US aid, and attacking the excellence that springs from diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. So if there is no time like the present to organize, there is no doubt that organizing is disruptive. It takes us out of our cycles and patterns and into the pattern of practicing collectivity, banding with other orgs and other people, rather than remaining inside the perceived safety of our own organizations or familiar boundaries. Organizing takes us out of the well-grooved tracks of family and friendships and work, and into the often messy and less worn space of meeting with people we don't know yet, who are not in our immediate circles, and that we have to grow to trust. And that is a healthy disruption. It's a necessary disruption, and really the only one that galvanizes change, the kind of change that Antuan was talking about. So when I think about organizing, it means putting things on your daily to-do list, on your weekly calendar, make that 5-minute call, checking in with friends to see if you're going to go to that town hall, to canvass, to enter and to go to press conferences when it's really inconvenient and really not the thing that you want to be doing. So I want to list some of the discomforts when I do this work, because I imagine that it's probably similar for everyone else. So every time I think about organizing a group of people, these are the thoughts that come up for me. No one's going to come. People are busy. I don't know enough people. I don't know the right people. I don't want to bother people. They will think I'm foolish. I'm blowing things out of proportion, and I'm not the right person, and this isn't the right move, and we need some expert, and we need some hero. And by the way, I'm an introvert. Right? Now, when someone invites me to a meeting who I don't know, and I don't know the place or the place that I'm attending, these are some of the things that come up from my mind. I might not know everyone, I might not know anyone that's there. I may not agree. I may not be aligned. It may be disorganized and a waste of my time. What are their motives? Who are they? What are they going to do? And I'm an introvert. So I know these questions really well, and I have to constantly work against them, because these are not the questions or the muscle that we need to get stronger. So in January, with a lot of personal hand wringing, I put out a call with community to address what we could all feel was coming with this administration. And a group of us art workers are trying to flex the muscle to gather monthly and to send out weekly missives to knowledge share about actions to agitate against this illegal administration, to protect ourselves and others, to write letters of gratitude to dissenters. We just finished writing to Al Green and Governor Janet Mills. We have done deep dives into encrypted platforms, into financial security, into phone tracking, and we're organizing to write postcards and make protest art. And we have a Signal chat to do that, and it's called Circle Up. And this small, mighty group of arts workers can also do this with Dance.NYC. So I believe that the tools that Dance.NYC is sharing and that that Dance.NYC is sharing can be galvanizing if we all share them, and if we all spread them, and if we all meme them, and if we all put them in our Google chats and into our reminders and into our pings, because it is up to us to make these calls viral. So a few years ago, a good friend of mine asked me a very powerful question. Amir Hall, some of you might know him. And Amir said to me, "What is the blessing you are demanding?" Our New York City dance. Who do we want to be? How radical do we have to become? And what must we change? Let's demand our blessings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our brilliant guests for sharing. I think a common theme I see from all of us is like, there's no one coming to save us, right? We got to do this work ourselves, whether that's making our dance community more accessible, making dance something that everyone can participate in, whether that's organizing as workers, whether that's bringing people together within our community within the dance community to advocate for everyone, right? Advocate for our neighbors, advocate for immigrants, advocate for queer people, advocate for people of color, etc. So we really hope that these stories can serve as snapshots of what's possible with sustained work and commitment. So to that end, we wanted to give you the opportunity to answer the same question as our guests in small groups. So how are you building our New York City dance? share a measure you have taken to create positive change in your dance community. So I really want to emphasize that we want to get a range of ways we can participate, so no action is too small. So that might be making tweaks in the language you use, right, from day to day. It might be joining an organization. It might be talking to your coworkers about a shared concern or reading about social justice causes. So we'll be opening the breakout rooms for 8 minutes in a moment. We encourage you to introduce yourselves and share your answers to the questions. And if you requested live captioning or ASL in your registration or have messaged Brenda, you'll be in breakout room 1. If you haven't yet and you want to be in the same room as our access providers, just stay in the main room and we'll reassign you to breakout room 1. And if you want to be moved from whatever room you're in for any reason, you can come back to the main room and we'll move you. With that, do we have any questions before we begin? Okay, we will be opening the breakout rooms for 8 minutes. And after that, we'll have an opportunity for people to just share just one sentence in the chat. So see you all soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, thank you all for your participation in the breakout rooms. We are going to be moving on in just a second, but I wanted to give the opportunity if just a couple of people wanted to share just a one sentence takeaway from your room, you can come off mute or put it in the chat. Abundance, that's a great takeaway. Mentorship, great. Anyone else? Intersectionality, mutual aid. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to continue to share in the chat. These are wonderful. Resilience, who and how best to fight for funding and visibility for dance, showing up and passing along information, take at least one action. That's lovely. I'm going to invite people to keep on sharing in the chat. But I wanted to move into talking a little bit more about the campaign and what we've prepared for the campaign for you all to get involved in, so that way you'll have actions that you can take with you before we leave. So in working towards our vision, we kind of thought about how change can happen on many levels. So we know that broader policy structures disadvantage working class artists and arts workers. At the same time, culture and working practice within the field also replicate those systems of oppression. So to that end, the campaign mobilizes dance workers on 2 ways to get involved. So the first is what we're calling actions to fight for the dance ecosystem in the broader policy landscape. So we've identified 4 key advocacy priorities to concentrate our actions, which I'll go over in a minute. And the second is what we're calling moves, right? And these are about reshaping how we go about the work of making and supporting dance in our day-to-day practice. So we want to create better working conditions, we want to support BIPOC, immigrant and disabled arts, and more. So with that, I am excited to launch and unveil the new campaign page. Okay, could I get a thumbs up from someone if you can see this? Perfect. So right now we're on our campaign page. It includes a picture of people dancing vibrantly with a gradient that says Our New York City Dance, and underneath that is a mixture of a white background with black text, as well as text boxes that have a purple to pink gradient, some that have a peach background, and some that have a lilac background. So in this page, you can kind of think of it as your centralized hub for taking action with Our New York City Dance. I mentioned our 4 advocacy priorities that you can take action on, right? So if you scroll down, which I'm going to do past all this wonderful launch information, to the take action to Our New York City Dance, I'm excited to announce the 4 advocacy priorities we have. The first is just funding for the dance ecosystem, right? So we know there's not enough money in the ecosystem, right? Our research shows that 40% of dance organizations rate their financial health as weak or very weak, and this impacts the gigs available and how much they pay. So I encourage you all to go in your own time to to explore these links that say like act on priority one, and that'll include tools for you to directly act on this from home, from wherever you are. So there's actions around expanding public funding, including city and state funding, and also passing a state bill around culturally diverse arts funding. The second priority is fair pay and benefits for dance workers, right? Like Antoine said, if you're here, if you're a dancer, you're an administrator, you're a worker, and workers deserve dignity, right? So how do we create policies that benefit all workers, including dance workers? And how do we create kind of better protections for our workers? So there will be some policies that you can act on with guides about how to contact your legislators and act on those. The third is dance education in public schools, right? So we know that we need to ensure equitable access to dance to every student, right? We know the power of dance. We know how it can reshape our connections to our bodies. It can create belonging and connection. So there are actions here to support to make sure that all the students have access to that. And the last is sustainable space for dance, right? So I know that Amrita and Jeeno shared about like how part of why their work is possible is having affordable, accessible space where they can have these meetups that are pay what you can, that people can access dance for free or for a low cost. Affordable space is what allows our workers to keep on doing the work and stay embedded in their communities. So I won't have the opportunity today to go over all of the actions under these, but I encourage you to do that in your own time. And the pages here will be updated with actions as we continue going. The next, as I mentioned, the moves to guide how we inform our action, our industry practice. So I'm going to keep on scrolling down to this part where it says make moves to strengthen our New York City dance. Here, under each of these issues, which align with the vision items we had before, we'll have things like reflection questions, resources, and other guides to inform how you create more equitable industry practice. For instance, under this issue number 3, justice, equity, and inclusion are still lagging. One of the moves it invites you to take is to partner and work with BIPOC, immigrant, and disabled cultural organizations. And it includes resources to help you do that. For example, a BIPOC vendor database that you can use, right? So these are great to think about. How can we change culture within the dance industry? How can we change, build more inclusive spaces? So these are all great. I am gonna stop sharing. So I'm seeing in the chat, dance education in public schools must create a space for traditional classical dance. Yeah, that's actually something that one of the actions is responding to a survey about the national dance standards. So that's one thing that you can do. You can take the survey about the national dance standards, talk about what you want to see in dance education, and that'll impact what everyone does. So now that I've shared some of the framework that we have, some of the actions we have, I want to talk about how you can stay plugged in. So one way for us to continue being involved is through the Our New York City Dance Action Crew that everyone can join. We'll drop the link in the chat. So the Action Crew is kind of signing up to stay up to date with our campaign and to be part of a dedicated group committed to actively shaping the future of dance in New York City. So as a crew member, you'll get exclusive advocacy updates, right? So those actions, as we update them, those moves, you'll get those in your email, along with like direct calls to action, things like attending rallies and contacting lawmakers. For example, on the screen right now is a picture of some Dance.NYC folks at an arts education rally. So this is about showing up, taking action, and moving together as a community. So as we close for today, I want to give us some time to begin as we're spilling out, moving and taking actions and making moves for our New York City dance. So what I'm going to ask people to do is we're going to play some music and we're going to drop the link for the Action Crew in the chat. And I'm going to invite people to sign up for the Action Crew. And if you have time, you want to look at the website. If not, you can just use your own inspiration to talk about one thing that you're committing to do to build our New York City dance. So I'll stick around here as we do that. I just want to thank you all so much for your participation. Together we can work towards correcting the systemic harms that impact our ecosystem. So I'm really excited to work with you all who are here on this call as we move forward in the months, as you join the Action Crew, and as we continue to communicate. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions, and we'll stick around for a couple of minutes while people do the actions and put your closing reflections in the chat.